Grace and peace, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Another great day, in spite of the weather, all the rain that is going on. God is still good, and we are still witnesses of how loving and kind God is. We're back again as we continue to talk about setting boundaries. We've covered a lot of information last week about boundaries, about having wisdom, be able to separate what is and what is not our responsibility as Christians or people of God. I want to start by saying that as a child of God, if we are not careful and if we don't use the spirit of discernment, oftentimes we will set ourselves up for people to take advantage of us. And sometimes that struggle of knowing when to say yes, when to say no, as we talk about setting boundaries, sometimes that struggle lies within us because God has called all of us to be servants, which means that this life we live is not necessarily about us, but it's about the gifts and talents that God has given us to be a blessing to other people through our shortcomings, through our failures, through our life experiences. God has gifted all of us, no matter what our background is, to bless and be a benefit to the kingdom of God. And a lot of times with that guilt of knowing all that Christ has done for us, it gives us a sense of we have to repay God by doing for others. Now, to a certain degree, that is true. I'll give my own personal conviction, if you will. Whenever I think back over my life and everything that God has done for me, which is everything, every opportunity that I have to preach, to teach, to encourage, there is a sense of humbleness and conviction on the inside where I believe I owe God everything. That even when I want to take a break or cut corners, there's this struggle on the inside of me, or this fight on the inside of me of saying, no, you got to give God everything you have. A lot of that too is just built up in my competitive nature, my competitive build. But again, like I said 2 weeks ago, over time, I've learned through experience that even though there's a deep guilt on the inside to repay God for everything He's done for me, I have to understand that I'm still human and I'm not able to do everything. There are some things, regardless of if I want to do them or not, I have to use that wisdom to determine whether or not this is an opportunity for me to say yes or for me to say no. And sometimes that's a difficult thing because our ultimate goal is to please God. And then there are times when we struggle not understanding whether or not we are, quote unquote, letting down God by not doing something that we can't determine whether we should or should not have done. That's difficult. But I'm not gonna dig too far into that. That'll be for next week or the week after that. But today I want to take the next 10 minutes or so to tell you that it's okay to struggle with certain questions concerning boundaries. It's okay to have or not be sure whether or not the boundaries we're setting to help us are legit. Chapter 27 in the book, it makes a powerful statement, and I'm going to get the 7 questions that the book mentions. And for those, if this is your first time tune in, this is the book that we're going to be looking at for the next, I don't know, till we get done. But setting boundaries, when to say when to say yes, how to say no. But on page 27, listen to what the author says. It says, any confusion of responsibility and ownership in our lives is a problem of boundaries. Just as homeowners set physical property lines around their land, we, as Christians, listen to this, we need to set mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries for our lives to help us distinguish what is our responsibility and what isn't. What the author is saying is that physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, we have to set boundaries. We have to be able to set up a perimeter around us to help us not fall into depression, not be have anxiety take over us. Studies have shown that one of the biggest problems with depression and anxiety is the fact that we haven't set boundaries. That we don't know, we feel like we have to please everybody and be there for everybody, to the point that it puts so much pressure on us that physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, we become drained or exhausted. So the question is today, what are the questions that we may raise in our lives that may be questions of whether or not we are legitimately setting boundaries? So listen to this. And some of these 7 may be something you struggle with, or just keep them in mind as you go through life. Listen. Can I set limits and still be a loving person? Can I set limits and still be a loving person? In other words, if I tell someone no, or give a person or people limits as to how far I'm willing to go, will they still see me as a loving person? That's something to think about. Listen to the next one. What are legitimate boundaries? Like what is considered a legit boundary? You know, as a pastor, for example, is it legit for me to tell the members, don't call me on Monday? Monday is the day that I rest. Someone say, no, you know, Pastor, you 24/7. Some would say, yes, unless it's an absolute emergency, such as death, whatever is going on Monday, probably can wait till Tuesday. But what is a legit boundary? Now let me say something. Only you can determine if that boundary is legit, because the people around us will justify whether or not it's legit based on what they get out of it. Most of the time, people will care less if the boundary is legit or not, as long as it benefits them. Just something to think about. Number 3, what if someone is upset or hurt by my boundaries? What if I set a boundary and the people get upset with me because I set the boundary, or their feelings become hurt based on the boundaries that I set? Again, if you look at the question, if the person is upset or hurt by your boundary, that means it's not about them looking out for you. It's what the best interest for them is. Just something to think about. Look at the 4th one. How do I answer someone who wants my time, love, energy, or money? How do I answer someone who wants all those things from me? Is it okay for me to tell them no? If it is obvious that you have come across a lump sum of money and you have a person that has been borrowing money from you for the past 2 years and has not paid back one penny of what they have borrowed from you. And now that they know you got this lump sum of money, if they ask you for some, is it okay for you to say, I ain't giving you no more money? First thing the person would say is, but you got plenty. That is true. But it's possible that that person has overstepped the boundaries and have taken you for granted and how you're able to help them, knowing I ain't really got to pay them back. They ain't saying nothing this time. They ain't going to say nothing next time. Just something to think about. Look at number 5. Why do I feel guilty or afraid when I consider setting boundaries? Why do I feel guilty or afraid when just even thinking about setting a boundary? One of the struggles for me a couple of years ago with setting boundaries was pretty much what I talked about in the opening. If I set this boundary, am I dismissing everything that God has done? If God has put me in position to be a blessing to other people, do I really just give and give and give myself until there's nothing left? Or do I reserve some so that my mental and physical and spiritual state stays intact? Most of the time, like I said earlier, most of the time that guilt comes from the guilt of, well, maybe I should, because I'm not living up to the expectations God wants me to live. Look at number 6. How do boundaries relate to mutual submission within marriage? That's number 6 is one for marriage counseling. But pretty much what the author is asking is, in a marriage, everything is 50-50. Two people come together. They should be a blessing to one another, take care of one another. But at the same time, whether it's husband or wife, at what point do we tell our spouse no? Should we even say yes all the time because they're our husband, they're our wife? They can go either way. But just something to think about. And here's the last one. Aren't boundaries selfish? If I set a boundary, is that a way of me being selfish? If I set boundaries, is that me saying, you know, I got this time and this energy, but I ain't fooling with nobody today? Is that being selfish? Again, some may say yes, some may say no. But I want to close the lesson for today by saying this. Regardless of how other people feel about your boundaries, remember, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. There is a thin line between being a servant of God and also having the wisdom to know, one, when you are being taken advantage of. 2, when you are not being appreciated. And 3, when somebody is just using you. I heard someone make a statement a long time ago, and it made so much sense as I grew more and got older. They said, if you want to get something done, find someone who's always doing something to help you. Listen to that. If you want to get something done, find somebody who is always doing something to help you. Basically, what the statement is saying is, You find somebody who's always doing something, they probably don't have those boundaries set up to tell anybody no. That they will make time to help you regardless if it hurts them or not. People, we have to set boundaries in our lives. We have to take care of ourselves. Depression, anxiety are real issues in our society, especially in the Black community. And we have to set boundaries so that we're able to take care of ourselves and continue to do what God has called you to do. God bless you. This is our midweek session. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. I love you. See you next time.